Good, good evening. Hello, hello. Welcome to Lazy Mini Painting. I am Laz, the guy who's going to be talking to you this evening and reading from this magazines. We've already done the buildy bit. So next is to do the ready bit. Because it's been a double issue, I've double stacked it, and hopefully that's the beep, meaning I can come over and join the portrait mode as well. I do this a lot. Okay, maybe it wasn't. How peculiar. Good evening, Buzzard. Good evening. How are you doing today? I hope you enjoyed and had a stress-free Christmas Eve so far. That's what we really aim for, if we can get it. Why is it not letting me go to YouTube and see myself? I am very, very, very unwished to see myself. And good evening, Graham. Captain Sidetrack. Yep, completely. I've not even started and I'm already off the script. I don't even know where I'm supposed to be looking for the thing that I want to go find either. Which makes it all the more fun. I think that's it. But he's not letting me click on it. Which means I've got to go use the old PC and hope the PC lets me do it. Why is streaming so stressful these days? I don't understand. It lets me click on it there. And then it lets me go click on it there. Okay, now I can come and join anybody who's in portrait mode. Sorry for the delay. But let's get started now, shall we? Who else do we have? We have Jay. Welcome. Welcome. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. We get to do the reading sections. And I've changed, because it's 2 issues and I'm doubling it up essentially, I'm going to do all the ruly side first and then do all the lorry side last. So we get all the boring bit out of the way first, and then we get to do all the nice, fun reading bit. So, starting with what would technically be in 67, we have the campaign for the GSC cults. And we should have other stuff as well. Yes, we do have another campaign as well. So we have 2 campaigns to go through. The first one is Scorched Earth. So using Mission 4, for those of you who have been collecting, and those of you who've been smart enough to pay attention to what happens in which issue, we'll be using Mission 4. The Space Marines are the defenders. Okay, so the Space Marines face down a hidden enemy, the zealous swarming thralls of the Gene Stealer cults. The very fate of this system hangs in the balance, and neither side can afford to falter. No quarter, no mercy. The secretive hosts of the Gene Stealer cults have long infiltrated the sparsely populated planets of this system. It has taken generations working in clandestine fashion to reach this precipice. The time of cloak and dagger has passed. It is a time to throw off the shackles of their imperial oppressors and welcome the arrival of the Star Children. However, a violent uprising does not go unnoticed, even amidst the chaos of endless war. At the same time, the forces of the Space Marines continue their search for ancient archaeotech in this system, an effort that could swing the direction of a number of conflicts across the galaxy in their favour. However, they are few in number, and matters of urgency elsewhere across the sector have waylaid their efforts time and time again. The Angels of Death know that their enemies lurk in every shadow, and they must be ready to react to any number of deadly threats, from Heretic to the hated Xenos. So it's Space Marines versus Cultists. Nice. Very nice. And that would be using, I'm guessing at this point, pretty much full rules, because we do get the full rules of, as far as I'm aware. So the cults, it doesn't actually tell you what they take. It just tells you if they are victorious or not and what happens. And obviously if you win, and this is a campaign, so it's your either battle 1 or battle 2. So you will continue on to another battle, which is the next one. Which is the Gene Stealers versus the Tyranids. In this one you use the Sweeping Raid and Core Mission 5, so it's end to end, not corner to corner like last mission. Last mission being Defender up here, Attacker down here in the bottom corner as your deployment zones, using, would say 2 of the mats, at least 1 of the mats. And then all your positionings are these. This is the weird one. This is the 6 inches from the centre going in a straight line, and then you've got to measure 10 inches and then down 4. It's 10 inches and up 4 for the other, just to keep it out of deployment zones and not right on the very border, almost central. So they do all fit within that band then. Whereas against the Tyranids, it is end to end. And although your deployment zones are 12 inches away from the centre line, you do actually get an objective 4 inches in and 6 inches either down or up, depending where you are. And then the other one is, again, just a little bit closer to your enemy, but in the same direction you're the one you're already holding. So if you're an attacker, they're all both down here, just like this one's a little bit further away. That one's the same with them. So it's a 15-inch gap from your deployment zone to the one that's closest to you. Not bad. Seems like a reasonably balanced mission. So in this one, the Gene Stealer cults are embattled by a splinter fleet of Tyranids. Whether it is a test of faith or an esoteric punishment from the Star Children, the ravenous Tyranids show no mercy, not even to their progeny. The Gene Stealer cults entered this system long ago, infiltrating every planet and structure of the Imperium as their influence grows. It is the work of generations, and every member of the cult plays their part to spread their fervent influence. However, the time of revolution has come, and it is time for these freedom fighters to unshackle themselves from the Imperium's rule. They have declared open war on any and all who would deny them the beauty of their vision, a world at one with the Star Children. The hive mind's will is unknowable, but the advance of the Hive Fleet cannot be denied. They charge through this system, consuming all that they can and crushing everything that resists as they rampage across battlefields in numbers too vast to ignore. And few can halt their crushing stampede. If the Tyranids cannot be stopped, none will survive, and all will be consumed by the ravenous appetite of the great devourer. So yeah, Tyranids don't even let their own people speak and live. Hello there. Hello. Hikem. I believe I can read that. It's on my phone, I do apologise. And I've changed my lighting slightly so it doesn't hurt my eyes. It doesn't help with my phone either, though. It makes it go really dark for some reason. But thank you for coming in, mate. Hope you are doing well. Hope you're having a nice time over this holiday period, if it is for you, this holiday period. I'm assuming you get the day off tomorrow anyway, regardless of whether it is. And if you win as the Gene Stealers, that is either your campaign victory or the second win in your campaign. Which brings us on to what you would get in issue 67. You get a lot more in issue 67. A lot more. We get faction abilities and everything in this one. So we'll go through the campaign missions, because there are plural. This is to go in an Eldari mission to end a campaign or be in a campaign against the Gene Stealer cults. So I'm guessing we're going to hear about some rangers that are missing again. There seems to be the popular theme for the Eldari and their missions in this magazine. Why are they fighting against them? Well, there's some rangers gone missing, that's why. Let's see if I'm right. To the proud Eldari, a Gene Stealer cult is like a hive of scuttling insects to be exterminated. But the zealous cultists are cunning and relentless foe, who will not be cowed by any oppressor, whether human or alien. A band of Eldari Rangers has disappeared in this system. Dun dun dun! Desperate to find the whereabouts of their kin, a larger force of Eldari has moved into the system. This might be the larger force of Eldari that we got earlier on in the combat patrol. Although they were able to pick up some clues as to where their missing comrades have been, they have begun to suspect the worst. But even if the Rangers have fallen in battle, it's still vital they are found and their spirit stones are recovered. The Eldari think nothing of scouring the territory of others during their search, and their fervent activity is starting to attract unwanted attention. Meanwhile, in the Legion of Doom, the secretive hosts of the Genestealer cults have long infiltrated the sparsely populated planets of this system. It has taken generations working in clandestine fashion to reach this precipice. The time of the substitutes has passed. It is time to throw off the shackles of the Imperial oppressors and welcome the arrival of the Star Children. Hello, Star Children. Have a nice day. Or a cup of tea. Go on, then. Good evening, Twisted. How are you doing, mate? Merry Christmas to you also. You have a few more hours to go. We've only got just over 2 hours and it's officially Christmas Day for me. You got a few more to go. But Merry Christmas as well. Enjoy the Christmas Eve before people start wanting your attention and you got to start cooking dinner. I know we were with the Legion of Doom, but I can't remember how far down we were. Oh yeah, that's it. They're welcoming the Nom Nom Kings. However, a violent uprising does not go unnoticed, even amidst the mayhem of endless war. So this is for the Eldari against the Genestealers. So the Eldari, the attackers, the Genestealers, the Genestealer cultists are the defenders. Going back through, it's core mission 6 to be used. This is a pretty straightforward one. It's the, again, end-to-end. I really should zoom in for this bit, shouldn't I? End-to-end, and then it's 8 inches from the centre going up and down. Or 2 of the objective markers, and then straight line 14 inches. So you've actually got an objective marker 2 inches into your own deployment zone on both of these. You deploy 12 inches from the centre. Deploying cards and scenery as required. And as I said, in this case, the Eldari are the attackers, the Genestealer cultists are the defenders. I hate having a small desk for doing this. As these are all technically campaign missions, if it is your third campaign, your third mission in a row to win, you win your campaign for your faction. If not, you don't. You lose, suffer, deal with it. That's what they have to do, suffer. A lot of them do. The second, is it just going to be like, right, okay, we do get a new scenario. Excellent, we do get a new scenario. So in this case, we're going to be using Clash of Patrols, which is core mission 1, the very first mission. Really easy to set up. It's lengthways 10 inches away from the centre of the board each. You get defender and attacker, and then no objectives are placed within your deployment zone. It's 6 inches from the centre line going towards the deployment zones and 10 inches from the centre point going directly across the middle. Really easy setup on one of the boards if you've got the room to put it up, which I don't on this desk. Doesn't help. I think I did at one point and I tried it and it just was horribly wrong. So for the Chaos Space Marines to face the Genestealer cultists. Chaos Space Marines will butcher the hybrids of the Genestealer cultists as gladly as they will loyal Imperial citizens. And to the cultists, the Heretic Astartes are nothing but another misguided oppressor to be cast down. We've not heard about the Chaos Space Marines. That's a bit wrong, isn't it? Hello, the YouTube coin. Hello. Welcome in. I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you had a good day today. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow as well. Happy Christmas. You're stealing Nom Nom Kings, are you, Jay? No, they are. They're the Nom Nom Kings. That's what the Tyranids are. So for this campaign mission, again, either being mission 1, 2, or 3 for Space Marines in this Chaos Space Marines in this instance. The Chaos Space Marines have stormed into the system and have immediately begun to capture vital positions. Once entrenched, they will be able to launch a campaign of bloodshed and violence on the rest of the system. As each planet falls, terror spreads around the region. In this climate, it becomes ever easier for the Chaos Space Marines to overwhelm more worlds, pressing home their advantage and tightening their grip on the ever weakening system. Meanwhile, the Legion of Doom. Meanwhile, the secretive host of the Genestealer cults have long infiltrated the entire system. At this point, they've infiltrated the entire magazine as well. They are going on They've managed to get this in everything. So, they shall stand for no tyranny, because that's our children are coming to nom them. I'm not reading the same paragraph out 3 times. Or 4 times if they give me another mission. I refuse to do it. And I'm sorry, people. You've just heard me read it twice. I don't think you want to hear me through. Genestealer cults managed to get enough guts to go, we're not going to hide anymore. Nom nom king coming! And that's what they're hoping for. So they're actually secretly helping the tyrannies by giving them more biomatter. So if the cultists win, does that mean the tyrannies win? By default. So if the cultists were to face the tyrannids in the first mission, and the cultists beat the tyrannids, does that mean the tyrannids still technically win? I'm doing Super Friends references? I didn't know I was doing Super Friends references. Okay. And Justice Friends, yes. Meanwhile, in the Legion of Doom. Yeah, I do. I'm doing all sorts of stuff. It's just random things that get stuck in my head, and then sometimes they come out when phrases trigger them, and yeah, it works. Well, yeah, it will be the Justice. Yeah, I'll know it from the Justice League rather than the Justice Friends or Super Friends. Yeah, probably where I know it from. We've been old enough to remember the Justice Society of America. That's old. That is old. Okay, next is new scenario. New scenario 42. So this goes in F in the play section. If you're using your binders and you're putting it away properly and not just throwing them away like I am, because I don't have the room for the binders, I've already thrown Conquest away, so Combat Patrol's not that big a deal. And that was the 8th and 9th thingy one. Whereas this is the 10th edition. Okay, so scenario 42 is Overrun. Rockets tear through the rockcrete, buzzing saw blades cut through the ranks of the Astra Militarum as the mechanical pilots of the Death Dread wreaks havoc upon this sector. And the cultists of the Genestealer cults recognise an existential threat to their long gestating plans. Put some awkward words in this, they really do. They really do. Before the uprising can continue, they must face this new threat head-on and crush the interlopers. The arrival of the Orc War complicates matters for the war for all concerned, for they so often lack subtlety and are concerned with bringing mayhem. But the cultists working to bury their tendrils deep into the roots of this imperial world, an Orcish incursion could spell doom for their plans, especially if the Imperium sanctions reinforcements, dealing with the presence of Space Marines and Orcs before the Star Children's arrival may prove insurmountable. Oh, that was a big word for me. I'm getting good. I can read. I learnt this shit. Nice. What the neophytes may lack in brute strength, however, is compensated tenfold with their sheer numbers and fiery devotion to their cause. If their death would advantage the grand designs and the fates spoken of by their Magus, then so be it. It would be a worthy sacrifice. After all are one under the gaze of the Star Children. So how to play this one? Set up the battlefield as shown on the next page. Place a total number of 4 terrain cards with the battlefield debris, area terrain, or barricades keywords. As shown. For more information, see Terrain C. Core Rules Part 13. One of the last issues. It is one brutal situation. It is. I certainly wouldn't like to be finding myself in this situation. Definitely not. So, in deployment, in my look, because I'll be one of the Gene Stealer cultists. I'll be one of these guys. The Gene Stealer cultist player deploys 1 unit of 10 neophyte hybrids in one of their deployment zones, and then they deploy 1 unit of 10 neophyte hybrids in their other deployment zone. Then the Orc player deploys 1 Death Dread in their deployment zone. The Orc player takes the first turn in this scenario. Okay, so now we've got to turn the page to find out what the actual scenario is. And then we get to actually start learning about rules and faction abilities and actual things that the Gene Stealer cults can do. So it's a single battle map and battle map 1. Do it that way, so it's on portrait mode as well. And I've rotated it 90 degrees. So technically it'll be this corner, but here it's marked with Gene Stealer's deployment zone, Gene Stealer's deployment zone down here, and then the Orcs are deployed in the middle, and then the terrain cards are all placed essentially so the Orc can have some cover when the Gene Stealer cultists are shooting at him. Because he's got to get blown to bloody hell if he doesn't. So, 1 unit of 10. 1 unit of 10. Death Dread. Death Dread could be hard to take down, actually. But they've got the big grinder thingy and the other gun, haven't they? Alan, hello. Hello. I can't... Yeah. Alan, have you been collecting this Combat Patrol magazine? What's the big gun called that the cultists have in we've got 2 now because we've got 1 in each unit. I know they've got the grindery thing. No, they haven't got the grinder. It's a web gun, isn't it? But I know they have a big gun. The autocannon's not going to do much. Or the heavy stubber, even. He's not going to do much. They're pretty much relying on 1 weapon to beat the bloody Death Dread. Anyway, how do you win? How do you win this round? At the end of the 5th battle round, the battle ends and the player with the greatest number of victory points is the winner. Okay, so how do you score victory points? The Orc player scores victory points at the end of the Gene Stealer cult's turn if the Death Dread is within a Gene Stealer cult's deployment zone. So he's got to run for these. So he starts here and he's got to leg it up there or leg it down there. Right. And if he's there, he gets 4 victory points at the end of your turn. The Gene Stealer cultist scores 20 victory points if the Death Dread is destroyed. If players are tied for victory points after 5 battle rounds, it's a draw. Yeah, so if the Death Dread gets there on turn 1 and manages to stay their turn till the end, and then you kill him so he scored 20 and then you kill him for 20. So he can be tied. You want to kill him before, you got to kill him at round 4 at least. So you need to be taking wounds off him very, very early. Very, very early. So what special rules? So detachment rules. The combat ambush ability allows the Gene Stealer cult player to call up new warriors every time one of their units is destroyed. If a unit is destroyed, they should roll a d6. On a 4+, they may place a cult ambush marker in a suitable place on the battlefield. In a future turn, a unit can be deployed with the Deep Strike ability. Nice. So how does this ambush stuff work then? Luckily, he's going to tell us. That's nice of them. That's very nice. In this scenario, the Gene Stealer cults are able to replenish their numbers and overwhelm the opponent by using the cult ambush ability, which is luckily this sheet here. See this one here. So let's actually find out what the cult ambush ability is. Cult ambush is a faction ability that allows you to replace destroyed units later on in the battle. This gives your combat patrol army tactical flexibility and forces your opponent to make careful decisions about which units to focus upon, which objectives they wish to contend, and their placement on the battlefield. Genestealer cults keep their fighting strength carefully hidden from their oppressors until the glorious day of ascension arrives. Even as battle rages, reinforcements slip from the shadows or spill up from dark places below. Called to war by the brood mind. Each time a unit with this ability is destroyed, roll 1d6, adding 3 to result if it is a battle line unit. On a 4+, that unit is placed into cult ambush, and you can place one cult ambush marker, which is something like this down here, anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches horizontally away from all enemy units. If this is not possible, no marker is placed. If an enemy model, excluding aircraft, ends any kind of movement within 9 inches of a cult ambush marker you placed, that marker is removed from the battlefield. At the end of the reinforcement step of your opponent's movement phase, for each of your cult ambush markers that is still on the battlefield, you can select one unit from your army that is in cult ambush and set that destroyed unit back up on the battlefield using the Deep Strike ability, containing all of its models and with their full wounds remaining, and with at least one of those models touching the ambushed marker. Characters. So this is characters that are attached to a unit with this ability and not returned alongside that unit should it return to the battlefield as described above. Only the bodyguard unit returns. So characters die. Characters ain't coming back. Bye bye. See you later. You got shot in the head. You don't get to come another go. If you're a grunt though, no, you get another chance to come back. Okay, that's nice. So it's making up for the weaknesses. Okay, so you get to use it in this battle, in this scenario against the Death Dread. That's quite handy. I don't think he's ever going to, but okay. So each time one is destroyed, or each time a unit of Neophyte hybrids is destroyed, the Genestealer cultist can place a cult ambush marker on the battlefield. This allows them to deploy reinforcement units in the future turn, and we'll be alright with that. I just read all that out once. So that is a cult ambush. That is not everything though. That is not everything, because we have the extra abilities and we have more stuff. So that's the main faction rule. So if you kill them, and they can come back very easily. Very, very easily. So they're almost going to be as bad as Necrons to keep off the board. It might actually be more in your benefit to keep 1 or 2 models alive in the unit and start moving on to something else before you start popping stuff off. Wait till you got board control and then start popping off the odd units. But from there, yeah, that's going to be weird. That is going to be weird. So we're going to look at the enhancements and secondary objectives and the stratagems. So now we know what they kind of do in Battlefield. They just unending swarm almost. The enhancements for the Magus. In games of combat patrol, enhancements are taken by the leader of each army. In your Genestealer cult army, this is your Magus. They automatically begin the battle with Psionic Shield, but you can choose to give them the Resonance Stave enhancement if you prefer. Read on to find out the effects of each of these potent enhancements. So a Psionic Shield. The Magus fashions a shield of psionic energy and lets it billow outwards to ward away the firepower of the foes. Nice. While the bearer is leading a unit, each time a ranged attack is allocated to a model in that unit, add 1 to the saving throw. Oh, that's good. So it negates -1 AP and just makes your general armor better. The Psionic Shield ability ensures the Magus and any unit they leading is protected from enemy fire. Many of the units in this army have a save characteristic of 5+. Adding 1 would mean effectively that it's a 4+ save. Very bloody useful. Very useful, especially against -1 AP stuff. As I said, negate save. You could stack it with cover as well. Awesome. But what does a resonance stave do? Fashioned with the core of psychoactive chitin, that's just a tongue and a half to get around. This weapon thrums with the gestalt energies of the brood mind. It need only land the slightest blow upon a foe to blast away their sanity and contort their body with bone-shattering spasms of agony. This is very festive. I like this. What does that mean in terms of on the tabletop? It's a melee weapon. So any melee weapons equipped by the bearer have the anti-infantry 5+ rule and devastating wounds as well. That's letting them punch above the weight a little bit. That is certainly letting them punching above the weight a little bit. So the example they give, the Magus attacks the captain. The wound rolls of 5 and 6 automatically score critical wounds because of the anti-infantry 5+ and devastating wounds. This means that both results immediately inflict mortal wounds on the captain instead of normal damage. So yeah, mortal wound, being able to dish out mortal wounds to characters and things that are a bit harder than you, definitely useful. But so is that adding 1 to your save. Choices, and I'm not sure which one I'd go for out of those two. Objectives, which are, well, secondary objectives. Victory points are key to winning games of combat patrol. In addition, the main objectives of the mission, you can also score secondary objectives. Other shit to keep you occupied so you can't actually focus on what you're doing. Great. You automatically get Rise Up as a secondary objective. If you prefer, you can swap this for Will of the Patriarch, but you must make your choice before the battle begins. So Rise Up as a default secondary objective. By seizing key locations and employing them to spread the cult's incendiary propaganda, the fires of rebellion can be fed until they grow into full-blown revolution. Viva la revolution! So what does that mean when we're playing the game? From the second battle round onwards, at the end of your opponent's turn, roll 1d6 for each objective marker you control that has one or more neophyte hybrid units from your army within range. Excluding battleshot units, they don't get to do it. On a 1, 2, or 3, you score 1 victory point. On a 4+, you score 3 victory points. That's not bad. It could churn your victory points up there very quickly. So positioning your neophyte hybrids on objective markers is key to scoring additional victory points with this secondary objective. In this instance, the neophyte hybrids control an objective at the end of their opponent's turn. The Genestealer player rolls a dice. The result is a 3. Gutted. So he only gets 1. But there they are. They're within the thingy and he rolls a 3. Proper good. Because you're going to get 1 anyway. No matter what you roll, your minimum is 1. So basically, on a 4+, you get an extra 2. So that's what you want. That's a bit... but it's guaranteed victory point if you can score it. The optional secondary objective. Will of the Patriarch. Every member of the Genestealer cult lives to obey their alien patriarch and will go to any lengths to further its goals, whether it be seizing a location the Xenos monster deems vital, securing some holy icon or vital plans it desires, or whether other expressions of its will, the Magus will see it done. So in this case, at the end of the battle you score 15 victory points if your Magus model is within 3 inches of the centre of the battlefield. That's a lot of victory points, but that's fucking hard to do. Magus ain't surviving long, and if Magus dies, he doesn't come back with the squad. Even with that +1 to your armor save, I'd be going with Rise Up. The default one would be the one I'd be going for. With 2 squads of hybrids, I've got chances to at least score it. Whereas with that Will of the Patriarch, it all relies on your Magus surviving the battle. And with what your Magus can do, especially with those enhancements, your opponent ain't gonna let it happen. It's not. They're not gonna let. It's gonna go for close combat if you take the one that gives them the +1 save, and if you take the one that makes them good in close combat, they're gonna shoot crap out of you. So yeah, go for the Rise Up one. Makes sense. Well, to me it does anyway. Oh, they give us tokens to cut out. I'm not going to because it'll make a complete, even more of a mess of everything. But they have actually given us in the magazine 3, 6, 9, 12 tokens to very nicely cut out. So you've got little paper tokens to use. Coins, any other kind of objective markers. If you've got a 3D printer, I'm sure you have plenty of chances to print out your own. If I had enough roast and hobbies markers, I could use those. And you can find something, you don't have to cut out pieces of paper, or you can glue the pieces of paper onto something a bit firmer. Otherwise, they're just going to go everywhere and you're never going to find them again. Anyway, back to stratagems. So we get 3 stratagems. We don't get the full selection from the codex. We only get 3. The first one, which is they're all 1 CP in this, aren't they? First one, Defend the Magus. Hand of the Magus is an epic deed stratagem. The faithful will expend every effort to protect their Magus, for she is touched by the will of the Patriarch and is surely his living prophet. When can you use it? At the start of your shooting phase or the start of the fight phase. You may target 1 Magus unit from your army and 1 enemy unit within engagement range of that Magus unit. And what does it actually do? Until the end of phase, each time a Genestealer Cults model from your army makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, reroll hit rolls and wound rolls of 1. If you're fishing for criticals, awesome. Just rerolls in general are good. Rerolls are good. For any free rerolls are good. Which is why I got banned from using Space Marines for a while, because everything could reroll everything. It was great. Well, not quite everything, but most of the time I got some kind of rerolls and just stopped playing them. Apparently weren't fun anymore. Anyway, next stratagem, Lurking Killers. Hand of the Magus battle tactic stratagem, combining guerrilla tactics and local knowledge with rudiments of alien instincts not their own. Genestealer cultists display an almost supernatural ability to blend into cover. When you use this, it's in your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. The target is 1 Genestealer Cult's infantry unit from your army, excluding the aberrant unit. Can't use an aberrant. No. That was selected as the target of 1 or more of the ranged attacks. The effect. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets your unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Nice. Making it harder to hit because you're hiding in the shadows. Kinda makes sense. To hit them, okay. That's not a bad. I prefer the rerolls one, but making it harder to hit is okay. And lastly, it's the third one. It's Return to the Shadows. This is also a strategic play. This is a strategic play stratagem. Seeing the foe advancing heedlessly into their trap, the cultists fade into the gloom and move to encircle or outflank their prey. You use this in your movement phase, just after your opponent's movement phase. Ooh, movement shenanigans out of sequence. Ooh, that's dirty. Good evening, Complex. Good evening, Fetty. Well, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Definitely. It needs to be said more often. It's not been said enough this year. Everyone's happy holidays and festive greetings, and nobody will say Merry Christmas anymore. So I'm making a stand now. It's Merry Bloody Christmas. It's Christmas Day tomorrow. Merry Christmas. Don't know what I'm rambling about. I was supposed to be reading this. Anyway, so use this in your opponent's movement phase, so it's a dirty tactic. Just after an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move. You target 1 Genestealer Cult's infantry unit from your army that is within 9 inches of that enemy unit. Your unit can make a normal move of up to d6 inches. If your unit has the Magus keyword, it can make a normal move of up to 6 inches instead. So it's a reaction move. They move forward to you. You run away! Run away! Leg it! So they're very much hit and run, hit and run, hit and run, hit and run. So we got the correction cards this time. So now we actually have the cards for the Genestealer Cult units. So we have the Magus. I can find out what that gun's called now. It's a seismic cannon. It's only got strength 6. I thought it'd have more than that. Well, that's going to be your best chance to take out that Death Dread in the other scenario. Aberrants could do it with a heavy power weapon quite easily. And the Acolyte hybrids get the demolition charges and the heavy mining tool. Yeah, that'll rip the crap out of it. But this time we get all the cards. Because they messed up and sent us all the Eldar cards again, didn't they? But along with that, we get the card for the Goliath Rock Grinder, which we will be getting over the next 2 weeks. So next Wednesday, I will not be doing a stream. It is the Wednesday between Christmas and New Year, where everyone's overdone it, and yeah, not too happy and sluggish. And then the week after, we get part 2. So I'll do essentially what I've done today. I'll do a build in the morning and then a read in the evening. So we get the cards. We also get the terrain cards and the Cult Ambush cards and the enhancement cards. We don't seem to get any. Oh, there we go. Stratagems are on the back of the enhancements, and secondary objectives are on the. Oh no, stratagems on the back of the Cult rule, which is the Cult Ambush, and the secondary objectives are on the back of the enhancements. So you get everything that now for the Genestealer Cults, apart from rules for the last unit, which we will get when we start Imperial Guard. But we also get some more terrain cards. If you don't have 3D terrain or terrains you use yourself, these are nice and easy. And one side comes with them predefined where the activation of the actual terrain and scenery. Whether or not you can go through it. So in this case you can walk into these ones are impassable. And if you flip it over, it's just the plain picture, which is nice and easy to use as 2D terrain. So yeah, over the next 2 weeks we will be getting the Goliath Rock Grinder. Just so you know now, you've had the talk, you've been told, we know what it is. It's the Goliath Rock Grinder. It's not going to happen at the end of the show or the end of the stream. It's going to happen halfway through. Now we have reading, and there is not much reading. There is a single page for those of you who have been reading Bounds of Honor. You are now up to part 16, but there is only a single page of that. But we have all the Genestealer story and lore, including types of models and other things. This story for the fiction is Insurrection. But I don't think there'll be any that would be classified as a tactical advance to the fridge. Yeah, you are right. And yes, Graham, I am reading. I'd learned. The lessons paid off. It did. The lessons paid off. I'm reading, but I do have my Christmas jumper on. See, I'm a gingerbread man. I'm sorry, you can't on portrait mode. See, I have Christmas jumper on. Christmas crackers, gingerbread men, and Christmas puds and turkeys. Nice. Just what you want to be wearing for an insurrection. Sergeant Coulson hauled herself to her feet in the wake of the explosion that had rocked the Imperial checkpoint moments before. Fiery ash, razor-sharp shrapnel, and the bodies of her comrades lay strewn around her. And... what? A staccato auto gunfire splintered rockcrete from the heavy panels of the Aegis defence line. The few troops who had survived the blast took cover alongside her on the firing platform, each of them clearly disorientated from the sheer chaos of the moment. "Take up defensive positions! Hold the line!" Vox hailed hauling a discarded lasgun to her shoulder. Through thick plumes of smoke, Coulson could make out the shape of a wrecked Imperial transport vehicle smouldering in the middle of the crater left by the explosion. The cowards must have rigged it to blow, she thought. Beyond that, she saw distant muzzle flashes, lasgun fire, and figures advancing swiftly upon their position. She loosed a few shots from her lasfire through the gloom, each distinctive crack sending an enemy combatant to the ground in a crumpled heap. A fellow Cadian threw himself against the defensive barrier, pressing into it and craning his neck to meet the sergeant's eye. Coulson could see in her peripheral vision, as she ejected an empty energy pack from her lasgun, that he was young, and he had barely escaped death in that explosion. His fatigues were shredded, and the colours were now stained with dark crimson. His pupils were wide, ink-black pools as he spoke. "Sergeant, with enough covering fire, I can reach the opposite platform and man the heavy bolter. Just give the order." With a heavy click, Coulson slapped another energy cell into her lasgun and opened fire into the swarming combatants. By now she could make out the distinctive uniform of mining labourers, each of them carrying tools of the trade, held high in defiance, and stolen Imperial weapons slung across their bodies. "What's your name, soldier?" she shouted over the din, without taking her attention from the oncoming enemy. "Kaiser, Sergeant. I can hold them back, just say the word." "Matthias Raffay," she called the two nearby guardsmen. "On my word, break with Kaiser for the heavy bolter. Cut them down. Soldiers, focus your fire to cover them. Move!" she shouted into her vox mic with the snarl, and along the line the Cadians unleashed heavy, indiscriminate fire against the amassing enemy. The insurrectionists scattered behind cover, ducking into darkened alcoves and behind the heavy walls as the manufacturing buildings lining the streets, offering the Imperial troopers a reprieve and an opportunity to move into position. Matthias and Raffay were two of Cologne's own. She had served with them for years. She knew they could be relied upon. With Kaiser, they broke into a dash, keeping their heads low as they cleared a near 20-metre gap in the defence line. Gunfire ricocheting at their feet, the troopers collapsed behind the opposite firing platform, scrambling towards the mounted wall. With laboured breaths, Kaiser grasped the weapon with grips as Raffay swiftly slapped a fresh boxed magazine into the receiver. Kaiser held the trigger. Ooh, this is a long one. A deafening series of thuds filled the air as the heavy bolter opened fire. The enemy had been dangerously close to the Cadian lines, but the hail of bolter fire broke their assault almost immediately. Those who weren't hit scattered for cover, and Raffay began calling out targets as their line fractured into small groups. Kaiser swiveled the weapon in response, cutting the enemy combatants down in brutal fashion. "Hold your fire! Hold your fire!" Coulson ordered over the vox mic. The sound of the final bolter shot echoed off the walls of nearby structures, and a hush fell over the manufactorum sector. "Good evening, Evelyn. Welcome back in. Thank you for coming to join us, and Merry Christmas." And somebody leaving? Somebody going? I've taken a small break in the story because, well, I say hello to people in chat, and Graham, I know I have. Actually, I'm still going to be talking just to make Graham happy because I do have it and I've not used it for a while. Move that out of the way. Move that out of the way. It doesn't stay on forever though, Graham. It does disappear. But I will leave it on for those who wish to go check out Rose Den Hobbies, and if you are getting anything, I do have a discount code which will appear on the screen periodically while I'm reading. Where was he up to? Oh yeah, she'd just told him to hold fire, hadn't she? The sound of the final bolter's shot echoed off the walls of the nearby structures, and hush fell over the manufactorum sector. Each of the Cadians listened and observed with caution. A sudden silence had met them, and anxious fingers hesitated over triggers as each soldier scanned for movement on the street. A distant roar broke the silence as two hulking Goliath rock grinders rounded opposing corners and turned in unison, barreling towards the defence line. Behind them, another wave of insurrectionists surged forward, taking advantage of the rolling cover provided by the heavy vehicles. Each one was packed with mining workers, some hanging off the sides with flares and smoke grenades held aloft to obscure their advance. "Open fire!" Coulson barked. She was answered immediately by the deafening cacophony of weapons fire. The heavy bolter opened up again, cutting through the thick smoke clouds until the final round ejected from the weapon, with a high-pitched and telling ping. He seemed to do little to slow the advance of the vehicles. "Reload!" Kaiser screamed. Rafe ripped the empty box magazine free from the weapon, discarding it and slamming another into the receiver in its place. Kaiser took to firing blindly into the swirling smoke formations, horrified as the spinning tooth-like blades at the fore of the mining vehicles churned the corpses of the dead labourers into fine mist. "Kaiser, pay attention! The viewport! Stop the vehicle!" Raff screamed over the thud of the weapon. The roaring engines and the unrelenting fire from the heavy stubbers attached to the mining vehicles. Kaiser braced his arms and focused his aim, the thudding of the weapon leaving every muscle in his body, each of his wounds burning with agony. Screaming through gritted teeth, he opened fire once more. The volley of shots seemed ineffectual until the heavy screech of metal on metal rang out across the sector. Workers were thrown from one truck into the awning maw of the other as the vehicles collided, sending both into a violent spin. One careened into the wall and the other upended, rolling it onto its side like a beast in the throes of death. It slid to a stop in a shower of sparks, and from around each of the upended vehicles, enemy fighters streamed forward once more. Their weapons fire was heavier and more focused than before, and their advance obscured by gouts of fire and swirling columns of smoke. Good effect! Great shooting, soldier!" A shot rang out. Raffe's words were cut short and his body folded violently beneath him. "Sniper!" Kaiser's lungs burned as he yelled the warning, ducking low and attempting to shift into cover to avoid the same fate. Before he could fully pull himself behind the barrier wall, Matthias dove after him with fire in his eyes. The casing of Matthias's lasgun met Kaiser's throat, slamming his skull into the fortification wall. Kaiser's vision narrowed into a blackened tunnel, and his ears rang and howled. Kaiser pressed his back against the casing of the weapon and took a sharp breath of air, his eyes meeting Matthias's, which were wild and feverish. Kaiser clenched his fist and swung. With a sickening crack, it connected with Matthias's cheek and sent him to the ground, his helmet falling away from his head and his lasgun spinning out of reach. As Kaiser took a sucking breath of hot air and struggled to regain his senses, Matthias scrambled to his feet. Cassius looked over to his crazed comrade, who was now pulling out his close combat blade. His hand had taken a sickly pale hue, his nails elongated, black and sharp, and the ridges upon his forehead, once hidden by his helmet, looked distinctly alien. "Xenos! Traitor! Scum!" spat Kaiser, fumbling for a las pistol that was no longer there. The opening was enough for Matthias to rush the still disorientated Cadian. His shoulder met Kaiser's midsection, knocking the wind from his lungs once more, and Matthias wrestled him to the ground. The combat knife came to meet Kaiser's throat, and he felt his sharp bite against his skin as he fought back, white-knuckled to keep the blade from slipping further. Blood welled along the blade, the knife. There was a zealotry behind Matthias's eyes that seemed to come from some unspoken depth of his soul. Crazed and burning, unflinching, the traitor pushed down all the harder on the blade and hissed through gritted teeth. The chains of tyranny are broken. Your false god will burn. We are the scions of the four-armed emperor. All hail, children of the coming of the starred children. The words, the ravings of a madman, meant nothing to Caesar. His consciousness began to slip away, his grip weakening upon the blade. All around him the sound of boots drumming on the ground grew closer and closer. A crack of gunfire rang out, and a dead weight upon Caesar's body let it. Matthias's body fell away from him in a heap, the knife clattering to the ground beside him. The burning skies above Caesar came back into the view as smog-choked air filled his lungs, and two more cracks sounded, dangerously close to his head now. He could hear the hiss of an ejected ammo shell. The shots came at close range and punched smoking wounds into Matthias's skull. A dismembered hand came into the view before its owner became clear. Sergeant Coulson, applying pressure to a wound on her stomach, pulled Caesar to his feet. She spun the auto pistol around in her grasp, offering him the handle. Any soldier who leaves his weapon on the field of battle without prior permission from the superior officer will be shot. Article 1295/00R. Coulson left a pause in the air that lingered as Kaiser looked at the weapon from her hand. Soldier, we need to move. Coulson looked at Kaiser's arm, draping it over her shoulder as another trooper and combat medic supported Coulson in turn. Together they limped away to from the checkpoint with only a handful of fellow Cadians in tow. As Kaiser looked back over his shoulder, he could see the line was near overrun. Among the labourers now were the uniforms of their own. Their owners possessed of the same wild fervour that he had seen in Matthias's eyes. He raised his las pistol weakly, aiming it into the horde and unleashing shot after shot. This is Sergeant Coulson requesting the fire support on position TG-4293.32. I repeat, fire support on position TG-4293.32. Unknown Xenos incursions. Enemy combatants may be wearing our colours. I repeat, enemy wearing our colours. Extreme prejudice required. A burst of autogun fire rang out behind the Cadians retreating from the line, and three of the remaining soldiers crumpled to the ground. Caesar took aim once more, his vision a blur, and each shot now wildly off the mark. Coulson led the remaining troops through a series of narrow choke points in an attempt to lose their pursuers. Ducking into the hollowed ruins, the remaining soldiers cleared each corner as they entered, looking for signs of the enemy. They climbed the stairs to the second floor. Coulson and the combat medic lowered Caesar to the ground, his breath shallow as he rested against the wall for a brief moment. "Patch Caesar up," said Coulson, her words almost a whisper. "Rest of you, watch the perimeter. We haven't lost them yet." The combat medic began tending to Caesar's wounds, as the rest of the Cadians took cautious positions at each of the windows. "Sergeant, what happened?" Pask whispered, as he sutured a ragged bullet wound. "What do we do next? If we don't get out of this sector, we're dead. We pray to the Emperor that our request for fire support is granted, and in the meantime we know that we cannot trust anyone." Her words fell heavy on the air, and they waited. That's a bit of a cliffhanger, isn't it? Because the next page it tells us to name neophyte hybrids and gives us the datasheet for neophyte hybrids. That was a bit... They got stabbed in the back by the mate. That's a bit unfair. Shouldn't be doing that. That's not good. But that's how the gene stealer cults work. That is how the Genestealer cults work. So we do have another small section of reading, which in this case is the Outrider Brutes. A Genestealer cult is always wary of its enemies and uses a network of spies and reconnaissance troops to keep an eye on the fringes of their ever-expanding territory. Outrider Brutes are those who undertake these missions on fast, light vehicles. Among many items that are pilfered, diverted, or otherwise acquired by the Genestealer cults are light vehicles. These are usually repurposed mining or survey vehicles, and the cults use them to scout out areas, discover new opportunities, and to provide early warning of counterattacks by Imperial threats and other threats to their uprising. For this purpose, the cult chooses vehicles that are blisteringly fast and which can be easily augmented with light armor and weapons. The Outrider Brutes themselves do not limit themselves simply to information gathering, but can act as light armor detachments within a larger force or as a fast strike force all of their own. Many enemies have only ever realized that they have crossed into Genestealer territory when the roar of engines has alerted them to a fast attack force bearing down on their position, appearing seemingly out of nowhere before disappearing again into the dust. And these are the ones we'll be getting last of all. Now, we will not be getting an Achilles Ridge Runner, which is this one here. We will not be getting one of these. The Achilles Ridge Runner excels in difficult environments where lesser vehicles would fail. Built for frontier work, they are fast, reliable, and possess excellent range. With their heritage as survey vehicles, they can carry great loads, and the cultists happily put this to use, loading them down with heavy weapons. However, we should be getting some of the Jackals, which actually are made up of little guys on essentially dirt bikes and a guy in a quad. But you also get a leader, and I don't know if we'll be getting the leader model. That's a different thing entirely. The Jackal Alphas. Attalon Jackals run in packs, and the Alphas is their undisputed leader. The Jackal Alphas is the most skilled rider, the best shot, and the most vicious killer of their comrades. They possess not only the fastest bike of the pack and the best weapons, but also the steel nerve required to ride into battle at breakneck speeds at the head of an armoured column. These orcs! Jackal Alphas are orcs. But we should be getting at least one unit of those, if not an actual leader model, which is the guys on dirt bikes. But we will get the Cadian Command Squad first. I think we get the Cadian Command Squad first, and then we get the bikes, and that's after the Goliath Rock Grinder. So we do get the big Rock Grinder, which is going to be excellent. I'm really looking forward to the fact that we get a Rock Grinder. Sparkles isn't too happy that I'm getting a Rock Grinder because it's another big thing. I managed to fit all the models for the Genestealer cults in a nice little box so far, but yeah, the Rock Grinder's not going to fit in a nice little box. It's a great big thing. So that's not good. So I have got plenty of cards to be popping out. I suppose classify it as a small early Christmas present. Bit weird, but okay. Oh yeah, I forgot about that bit. Oh, I'm right. Just to put people's mind at ease, I do not advertise Rogues Den Hobbies because of the said commission that Graham has just informed me about. That he's probably told me about 1,006 times, but I've got ADHD and I forget. So just put your mind at ease. If it ever turns out I ever get a commission from Graham, he's probably just going to turn into resin anyway. Can you just do me a few more of? Or could you just print me some of? Or maybe you could. That's probably how it's going to work. So, please make use of the discount if you do wish to buy them, particularly on those nice sets of dice. If you've got any Christmas money coming up, it might be something you want to get. Bespoke dice, made by hand, polished and painted by the man himself. And they do look absolutely stunning, I've got to say. They do look stunning. If enough of you purchase them, I may end up getting a set. But it'd have to take a lot of people to purchase them. But it is there above me. Last 10. Please use the discount. Check out for a 10% discount. This isn't even sponsored, so I don't even have to tick that box, do I? No, it isn't sponsored, I don't think. You're not paid me to say this, so... yeah. Technically not sponsored. So that is all the reading done for both of the issues, apart from the ongoing story, which, as I do encourage, if you are collecting the magazine, please do read that story, and I do like to leave something to the imagination. I don't want to give you every single thing. Do go buy the magazine if you are interested, and if you want the models, and if you think it is worth it. If not, just come and hear me waffle on about it. It's generally what I do. If it's a single issue, though, I will do it in the morning, and if it's a double issue, I might start doing this, miss the week, and do 2 streams in one day. It's easier. I don't feel as rushed. It does seem better. But they are shorter, technically. It's an hour and a half stream in the morning, usually, to the 2-hour stream, and then about an hour to an hour and a half at night. So it does work out about 3 hours in total a day, which is about right for what I'm doing. It's weird. It is weird. I've never managed to figure it out. However, one thing I have realised is tomorrow is Christmas Day. And I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day. There will not be a magical world of sparkles and oak, sadly, because, well, I'll be spending time with my family and doing Christmassy things. However, on Monday, which is not a Christmas Day and is not a New Year's Day, I will be doing a Magical World Models and Musings crossover. So I'll be doing the Magical World on Models and Musings next week on Monday at 9:30. So if you wish to come and join me for that, please do. Most people will probably be sat on sofas, so I can be put on YouTube on the television if necessary. But enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy tomorrow. My best wishes to you and all your families. Thank you all for coming. If you want to hit that like, subscribe. If you want to do the YouTube stuff, excellent. If you even want to leave a comment once I've finished, I'm grateful for as well. But look after yourselves, drive safe, and I will see